We got to talk about history in the making, because right now, in this very moment, Lindsay Adams, Kennedi Carter, and Ambrose Rhapsody Murray are actively shaping how we experience and understand contemporary art in their own way. These are three women whose work is not just appearing in major institutions and galleries, or even collections. Their work is demanding space, making sure that the visual landscapes of our time is permanently altered by their depth, their complexity, and their brilliance and their storytelling. Because we're in the present, we are watching history unfold through their hands. Lindsay Adams is taking a medium that has long resisted Black narratives and making it her very own. She's infusing it with memory and movement and color as a language. Her paintings don't just exist on the surface. They breathe, they hum, they pull you in. And Kennedi Carter, capturing the magnificence of Black presence in ways that are both regal and personal. She's not just taking photographs, she's creating images that will define this era. Her lens sees not just beauty, but power and intimacy and history in one frame. Ambrose Rhapsody Murray is working through fabric and paint, layering to create pieces that feel like living archives. Their work exists somewhere between past and present, weaving together ancestral memory and contemporary Black life through textile and dye, and ghostly figures that refuse to be forgotten. This is why I'm talking about these three artists together, because they belong in dialogue, not just because of the talent, but because of the conversations that they're having through their work. They are expanding what we think of as documentation, as presence, as legacy. They are creating work that will outlive all of us. And during Women's History Month, I want to celebrate them, not just as artists, but as figures who are actively making history. Now that we've gone ahead and set the stage for why these three artists belong in dialogue, let's take the time to explore each of them deeply. Because when we talk about artists who are actively, in their own way, shaping the art world, we have to take time to truly understand their work, what they're doing, why it matters, and how they're positioning themselves within the market and within history. Their careers are evolving in ways that demand attention, and they each bring something unique to the conversation. What's up, Glorifiers? For those of you that are new, I'm Mariah Elise, an art advisor and curator dedicated to making the art world accessible to everyone through insights, conversations, and discovery. I want to start with Lindsay Adams. Lindsay Adams is an artist who is proving that abstraction is just as powerful a vessel for memory, identity, and storytelling as figuration. That's important. Her work does not depict, but it remembers. It carries emotion without needing a subject. It holds history without needing a face. It moves like music, breathes like living things, and shifts between the personal and the universal, offering us the feeling of Black life without confining it to representation. In the tradition of artists who have used color, movement, and gesture as language, Adams is creating a visual vocabulary that is her own, one that feels simultaneously like excavation and invention, like discovery and return. Her paintings feel like a body in motion. They hum, they pulse, they pull you into something beyond the surface. Adams' path to becoming a full-time artist was not traditional. She initially pursued a career in corporate consulting and marketing strategy, working with Accenture before realizing that painting was the truest form of storytelling she wanted to engage with. Despite this nonlinear path, her dedication to her craft had been evident since childhood. She started painting and drawing at the age of 4 and found early recognition with a professor submitted one of her works into a competition. The work became a finalist, and it even received offers from buyers. That early validation planted a seed, but it wasn't until later that she allowed herself to fully lean into painting as a serious artistic pursuit. This background in communications and strategy has in some way shaped the way she approaches her work and her market positioning. She is intentionally research-driven and deeply aware of how her work operates within a broader ecosystem and contemporary art. Despite still completing her MFA at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, Lindsay Adams is already achieving so much major institutional recognition, signaling that her work holds long-term significance in contemporary abstraction. Her work has already entered museum collections, an achievement that many artists spend years, sometimes decades, and sometimes never pursuing. The Baltimore Museum of Art acquired her painting, Down at the Cross, that was made in 2022, solidifying her as a figure in the institutional collecting space. Northwestern University added her work to their collection, placing her in dialogue with academic and research-driven institutions. She has exhibited at James Cohen Gallery, Gavlak Gallery in Los Angeles and Palm Beach, and most recently, Sean Kelly Gallery in Los Angeles, all of which are highly respected in contemporary art. Now, this type of early museum and gallery support is a sure sign that Adams' work is being positioned not just for momentary interest, but for longevity in the art world. Her first solo exhibition at Sean Kelly Gallery in Los Angeles, which is titled Keep Your Wonder Moving, marked a defining career moment, introducing a new body of work that fully embraced abstraction as memory, as movement, as an ever-evolving language. Her work is all about presence and sensation. Paintings do not depict specific people or places, but they hold them, like echoes, like traces, like something remembered through color and rhythm and texture. She's described her approach to painting as being rooted in movement and in feeling, and in building something that carries weight without being representational. Adams' paintings speak through color. Her palette is rich and earthy, yet it's also vibrant. She uses bold blues and striking reds and these warm browns, layering them in ways that feel like history unfolding into the present. Her color choices are not random, they are deliberate. They're careful. She's carefully mixing and layering to create a sense of depth and time. She works with warm, glowing tones set against deep shadows, creating this interplay of weight and lightness, of this density and this airiness. The result is a sensory experience, one where colors do not just sit on the surface, but seem to expand and vibrate, kind of like music. She has spoken about how she is drawn to the work of Joan Mitchell and Jacob Lawrence, artists who use color to create a mood and a presence, a world with a canvas. Her color choices evoke landscapes and weather and organic textures, but not in a literal way. Instead, they create the feeling of place, the impression of memory. One of the most striking things about Adams' paintings is how alive they feel. Her layered process is extensive. Some paintings carry 20 to 30 layers of paint, each one contributing to the final image in ways that are felt, even if not directly seen. Her process often involves building up color gradually, letting some of these areas remain transparent and others thick with impasto. She's scraping and pulling and dragging paint across the canvas to create this sense of movement, leaving marks and gestures visible so that the history of the paintings, of the creations, is embedded in its surface. Her paintings are not just about what is added, but what is left behind. You can feel the traces of her past layers, the underpainting, the shifts in form and the shifts in tone. This approach mirrors the way memory functions. It is layered, it is shifting, it is not always clear, but it is always present. One of the most powerful aspects of Adams' work is that it engages with Blackness without relying on figuration. Instead of depicting Black bodies, she explores the weight of history, the energy of movement, the presence of space. Her paintings evoke migration, music, physicality, and spirit, all without ever needing a direct representation. She has spoken about the importance of creating spaces for Blackness to exist in contemporary abstraction, challenging the notion that Black artists must always be expected to paint literal narratives in this way. Her work sits in perfect dialogue with Kennedi Carter and Ambrose Rhapsody Murray. Kennedi Carter captures the physicality of Black presence through photography. Ambrose Rhapsody Murray stitches Black history into fabric, existing between visibility and disappearance. Lindsay Adams embodies Black experience through abstraction, using color, gesture, and layering to hold memory. These artists are all engaged in documenting Black life, documenting history, and documenting identity, but through different lenses. So why are we talking about Lindsay Adams? Beyond her context, beyond the beauty, Adams' work is positioned for long-term growth in the market. She's museum-backed, already collected by institutions like the Baltimore Museum of Art, signaling strong curatorial confidence. She's working with top-tier galleries, Sean Kelly, James Cohen, all of which cultivate sustainable collector bases. She has early career demand. Her market is being carefully built, avoiding oversaturation while steadily increasing in value. She's a distinct voice in contemporary abstraction. Her market positioning suggests gradual appreciation, meaning that collectors who acquire her work now are making a smart long-term investment. Lindsay Adams is an artist whose work holds both cultural weight, historical weight, and market potential. Keep that in mind. Let's talk about Kennedi Carter. Kennedi Carter is a visual historian, a documentarian of presence, and a master of light. She ain't just capturing moments, she's constructing images that exist in historical documents as fine art, as living, breathing testaments of Black beauty and regality and intimacy. Her photographs hold attention that is both personal and monumentally grand, a contrast that allows her work to sit in the space between editorial and fine art, between real and cinematic, between everyday life and historical archive. She's reclaiming visual storytelling, making sure Black presence exists in ways that are soft but powerful, luxurious, but also very human. Carter's rise in the art world was crazy, meteoric, but not by accident. She built her career on skill, on vision, on deep understanding of photography's ability to shape culture and perception. Her first major milestone came in 2020, when she became the youngest photographer to shoot a cover for British Vogue at just 21 years old. That cover featured Beyonce. That was her moment in history. But what separates Carter from other photographers is that her work does not just exist in the commercial world. She moves seamlessly between editorial commission and fine art exhibitions, ensuring that her images hold artistic weight beyond the page of a magazine. She has exhibited her work in galleries and in institutions, and she has placed her images into public installations, bringing photography into community spaces where it belongs. This makes her work both accessible and collectible. It exists in museums and galleries, but it also lives on the streets, in publications, and in places where Black people can see themselves reflected outside the confines of these art spaces. She understands how light functions not just as a technical tool, but as a narrative device, a sculptural force, a means of revealing and concealing. Her color palettes are rich, they're aged and cinematic. Her images feel like they belong to history and the presence at the same time. Her subjects glow, even in the shadow. She captures the details that others might overlook. These details build intimacy, allowing her work to carry a deep emotional and historical resonance. One of Carter's most striking skills is her ability to make the everyday feel grand and the grand feel deeply personal. Her portraits have the gravity of historical oil paintings, but with subjects posed in ways that feel timeless and also regal. But they also carry this intimacy of documentary photography, where a glance and a gesture or an interaction tells a story beyond the frame. This duality is what makes her work so powerful. She elevates Black life without over-romanticizing, allowing her subjects to exist as both icons and individuals. Her images do not feel staged, even when they are meticulously composed. They feel lived in. They feel real. Her work exists in direct response to the historical erasure and misrepresentation of Black figures in visual culture. She places Black subjects in positions of power and grace and visibility, not as a means of overcorrecting history, but as a means of simply documenting reality. You know what I'm saying? Like, her portraits are referencing these classical European compositions, but instead of borrowing their aesthetic to assimilate, she uses to subvert. She reclaims visual power, placing her subjects in environments that feel historical, that feel sacred, and that are full of agency. Carter's work is deeply influenced by the American South, which is why I am in love with it. Her work is rooted in the textures and the landscapes and the cultures of Southern Black life, and she does not approach the South through nostalgia or tragedy, but through the real, layered, vibrant ways Black people exist down here. This is what makes her work sit in perfect dialogue with Lindsay Adams and Ambrose Rhapsody Murray. Lindsay Adams maps Black presence through abstraction. Ambrose Rhapsody Murray stitches Black history into fabric. Kennedi Carter archives Black life through lens, making sure that the presence is documented, recorded, and visually cemented. Now, this is what I'm really excited about. Some of her most recent work in New Orleans, shot at Hotel Peter and Paul, which coincidentally is the church where I got married, is a perfect example of why her images feel both historical and contemporary. The way she's composing these images, stained glass, filtering light, brass instruments catching reflections, figures emerging from shadows and highlights, it's mirroring that layered storytelling happening in Murray's textile work and Adams' color fields. She understands how to use space, costuming, and environment to create these layered narratives. This is why her work exists as both art and archive. This is a document of presence, but it is also a work of composition and a visual language. Now, Carter's work is already institutionally recognized. Her photographs are being exhibited and collected by major institutions. It's highly sought after in the editorial world. She has shot for some of the biggest publications and brands in the world. It's also very timeless. Her images are not trend-driven. They will hold their value artistically and financially for decades to come. She has historical significance, and she's shaping the way Black life is archived, recorded, and remembered. So, Kennedi Carter, in my opinion, she's an essential name. Now, if this conversation is resonating with you and you want to engage with this kind of research and analysis every single day, join the Glory Collective, where we're breaking down the market. We're analyzing emerging artists and curating resources for both artists and collectors. For example, let me tell you guys what's going on in the collective this week. We have 2 exclusive videos, selling your artwork as an independent artist and budget-friendly art collecting. We actually have 3 exclusive videos dropping in the Patreon. The last one is the Fantasy Art Collection Research, where I show you guys the research behind me building this fantasy art collection. We also have exclusive blog content that drops every Monday. This Monday, the blog was about why reading art editorials matter. I'll also be dropping an exclusive exhibition guide telling you guys what exhibitions I think you should check out, as well as an extension of this video, which will feature 5 women artists you need to know. I'll also give you guys an opportunity to poll. Like, for instance, this week we'll be polling which emerging artist market should we dig into next, and which exclusive Patreon video by your vote should we feature next. I don't want you guys to miss out. We have market analysis. My latest one was over Nathaniel Mary Quinn. We have a glossary of terms for editorials and prints. We have toolkits for insurance for both artists and collectors. And if you join that premium tier, you receive a 45-minute consultation every single month, plus everything else that I just mentioned, plus more. So if you want to be a part of that community, I would really love to have you there. But when you join the community, make sure you at least tell everybody you're there. Say hello. Just say, at least to me, say hello. Anyway, last but definitely not least, let's talk about Ambrose Rhapsody Murray, an artist I had the pleasure of meeting in Chicago. Back when Kendra Walker, the founder of Atlanta Art Week, hosted a group of us for an artist talk. Actually, that's where I met Lindsay Adams as well. I've probably shouted out Kendra in my videos a few times, and I appreciate the community building that she's done. Anyway, Ambrose Rhapsody Murray is an artist whose work refuses to be contained by the limits of traditional painting or sculpture. Their practice exists in a space between history and present-day storytelling, melding this textile, paint, dye, and layering into works that feel like physical manifestations of memory. Their figures do not simply sit in a composition, they emerge, they dissolve, they linger, and they haunt. They are stitched through history both literally, through thread and fabric, but also conceptually, as reminders of the lives and the stories and ancestors that are often obscured and erased or forgotten. Murray's work holds time within itself, pulling together the past and the present and the future in a way that forces us to question the idea of permanence. Their figures are there, but they're also shifting, resisting full definition. This is not an accident, this is the point. They're an artist engaged in a visual practice of refusal to be fully seen, refusal to be erased, refusal to be confined to one time, place, or medium. Murray is already commanding serious attention from curators and institutions, which signals long-term significance in the contemporary space. Their work has been exhibited in major contemporary art spaces. Beyond institutions, their work is also being carefully placed in significant private collections, particularly among collectors who focus on contemporary Black artists, fiber-based practices, and conceptual figurative work. Their career is being cultivated with longevity in mind, avoiding premature market saturation and speculative flipping. Their trajectory suggests that their work will continue to enter major museum collections, placing them in a category of artists whose work is not just collectible, but historically necessary. Murray's work exists in the intersection of art, craft, and historical record keeping. Murray's figures are ghostly, fragmented, but undeniably present. They hover within the fabric, dissolving into washes of dye, emerging through stitched layers. They explore what it means to exist and persist through time, particularly for Black whose histories have often been erased or violently disrupted. Their figures are not bound by realism. Instead, they exist in a state of fluidity, abstraction, and transformation. This is what makes their work feel like an ancestral archive. Their subjects feel as if they are being remembered into existence, stitched back into a history that tried to forget them. Murray does not use traditional canvas. Instead, they construct their surfaces from fabric, thread, and dye, materials that have a deep historical and cultural significance in Black life. She's quilting. They're quilting and sewing. Their work carries the weight of quilting traditions in Black communities where fabric has long been used to document family histories, community narratives, and coded resistance. They're hand dyeing and layering. They use natural dyes, staining the fabric in a way that feels organic, like something that has aged, that has weathered, that has survived. They're fraying and having this imperfection. Their fabric is often torn, distressed, or layered in ways that suggest both fragility and resilience. Their work demands us to ask, what does it mean to hold memory in our hands? What does it mean to stitch the past back together? There's always a feeling in Murray's work. There's always a feeling in Murray's work that something is both there and not there. Their figures exist in a liminal space. They are appearing and disappearing, shifting between the seen and the unseen. This tension mirrors how history remembers some figures while erasing others. It reflects how Black existence has always been at odds with the desire to both be visible and safe, present but not watched over. Their work asks us, what does it mean to reclaim a presence that history tried to erase? This is why their work sits in dialogue with Kennedi Carter and Lindsay Adams. Kennedi Carter uses photography to reclaim and document Black presence, making sure it is visible, regal, and recorded. Lindsay Adams works in abstraction, allowing presence to exist in gesture, movement, and color rather than literal representation. And Murray navigates the in-between, the act of disappearing and reappearing, be remembered, being re-sewn into history. Each of these artists is expanding the way we think about Black presence in contemporary art. That's whether through light, through color, or through fabric. Now, Murray's work is museum-backed. They are already in major exhibitions and have institutional support, which is crucial for long-term collectability. Their work is materially distinct. Their use of fabric and mixed media sets them apart from traditional painting, making their work highly sought after, especially in this year. Their work is narratively rich. Their work tells stories that will remain relevant for generations, adding conceptual weight to any collection. And their work has great market positioning for growth. With strong gallery representation and demand, their work is carefully positioned for sustainable value appreciation. When I look at these three artists, I see a collector's dream. Their work holds weight, not just visually, but in its ability to transform the spaces it enters. This is the kind of work that doesn't just sit in a collection. It speaks to it. It builds dialogue. It creates connections, and it makes sure that a collection not just is valuable, but I'm a research-heavy advisor. I don't just source work for collectors. I make sure that every acquisition is intentional, that it makes sense within their broader vision of collecting, that it holds financial, historical, and aesthetic weight. I track market trends and value appreciation, making sure that you're making smart investments. I think it's important to make sure that your collection is cohesive, that the works within it speak to one another in ways that add depth to your holdings. We structured collections so that it's balanced, not just artistically, but financially as well. We talk about leveraging art loans, philanthropic strategies, estate planning, and even exit strategies for your family when it's all said and done. Now, if you're looking to collect women who are shaping history right now, let's have a conversation. Email me at mariahelise@mariahelise.com, and I would love to help you build a collection that isn't just impressive and beautiful, that too, but also holds significance. Don't forget about the Patreon if you want to engage with daily content, deep dives into the market, artist spotlights, exclusive research, and strategy-focused insights for both artists and collectors. That's where the real talk, the real work happens every single day. And last but not least, I really want to urge y'all to join the newsletter. I send out a newsletter every single Monday. I get you prepped for the week, digging into the art market sentiment, where it is, where the art market is trending, what's an approachable artwork under $5,000 that you can acquire. And I set y'all up with some tidbits of advice to keep your art strategy sharp and intentional. because this is not just about collecting, it's about building legacy. It's not just about art, it's about building legacy. And I want you guys to please continue to remember, it does not matter what group you belong to. If you're an artist, a collector, or just here for the love of art, I want to thank you guys for watching Dear Glory. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and join me next time for more art world conversations, insights, and discoveries. I'll see y'all soon. Peace.